Good evening and welcome to the Quarry Valley Unified Union School District Board meeting. Today is January 6, 2022. If you would all please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first action is approval of the agenda, and I'd like to move the finance discussion number 10 above number 5.
I'll make that.
Motion by Mike, second by Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. General public comment. There is no public with us. Is there anyone on the call that would like to speak under general public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on. Old business. Is there any old business to come before the board? All right, we will move to finance. Lewis?
Hello, everyone. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll go right into budget, and included in the packet was draft 3. On this page 1 summary of changes, you can see all the changes that were made since the last draft, which were the things that we discussed at the last meeting. So there was many of the wish list items which we went through, and one at a time we took some out, kept them in. So just going through them quickly, the Poultney custodian that was added, that did not stay in the budget. Instead, we added $15,000 for lawn maintenance. The Poultney Consumer Family Science teacher that was added in the previous rounds was taken out. The West Rutland Jace control upgrades was moved to the Capital Reserve Fund. We've removed $35,000 in West Rutland books, and we're going to fund that book purchase to a pilot program through ESSER funds. And any other changes that were made were executive session items, so they're not listed here on the summary of changes. But we did discuss all of those items during executive session. So those are the main changes. There's the only thing that's still pending on the expense side is the vocational tuition. We did receive word that the Stafford tuition was approved. However, we're still waiting for the official 6-semester rolling average from the AOE. As of this time, I'm using the 6-semester rolling average that we received from Stafford, which should be pretty close, but it may not be 100% accurate to what the state has. So when that number does come in, I may need to make a small tweak to the budget, and if that's needed, because those numbers do need to match whatever the state gives us as far as the on-behalf payment. So if I have to make any changes, I would adjust those numbers and then just pull it from another line. But it should be pretty minimal with very small impact. So looking at the totals after the changes that were made at the last round, which would be on page 14. Total expense is up by $675,000, which is 3.67%. Education spending is up by $208,000, or 1.22%. So it's down quite a bit from the last round. I think we cut about $200,000 out of the budget. And most of those things that we cut out were not things that we're cutting from the FY22 budget, but they were things that we were cutting from the wish list items that were added. So looking at the tax rate, which is on page 16. give everybody a second to get that in front of them. At this point, there's still 2 items that are pending on this. We are still waiting for final numbers from the state. So we'll go through it and we'll talk about those when we get to them. So taking it one step at a time, so we have total expense is $19,096, which is up by $675,000 or 3.67%. Education spending, $17,261,000, which is up by $208,000 or 1.22%. Equalized pupils is estimated right now at 1,023 pupils. This is just an estimate. It's down slightly from last year, which actually was, I was surprised. I thought it was going to be pretty steady. But this is not a final number yet. We're still waiting on final equalized pupils from the state. I was hoping that we would get an update before tonight's meeting, but as of this evening, it still has an update has not come. So using that equalized pupil number, we're looking at ed spending per pupil of $16,870, which is an increase of 1.85%. Moving on to the next stage of the calculation, we take our ed spending per pupil and we divide it by the property yield. I'm currently using the property yield of $12,937. If you recall at the last meeting, there was 2 numbers that were given to us by the AOE. The first one was the $12,937, which is more of a recommended number. And then there was the number that was given to us by the tax commissioner, which was $13,000, I don't have that number in front of me, but it's $13,846. So to be more conservative, I'm using the lower number. As the yield increases, our tax rate goes down. So hopefully this is even worst case scenario, this can get better if this legislators use a different yield. So based on that yield, we're looking at a tax rate of $1.30. The next step is to look at the common level appraisal, and I know at the last meeting this was one of the items that was still pending and I was very cautious about. The common level appraisal compares the fair market value of homes to the assessed value, and with the housing market the way it's been in the last year or two, there was concerns that we'd see a fairly large decrease in CLAs. We did see a decrease in all CLAs for all of our towns, but not as significant as I had feared. So they dropped anywhere between 1.5% to about 6%, depending on the different towns. So Pulteney CLA is at 95.92. They were at 97.5. When you apply that, they're looking at a tax rate of $1.35, almost $1.36, which is a decrease of 8.2%. Proctor CLA is at 95.25, a decrease from 99.87 the previous year. They would have a tax rate of almost $1.37, which would be a decrease of 5.3%. And West Rutland CLA is at 100.38, a decrease from last year's 105.64. And after the CLA, they would have a tax rate of almost $1.30. It's 1.2991, which would be a decrease of 4.9%. So the tax rates differences vary only based on that last piece. The CLA is the only thing that changes the tax rate from town to town in a unified district. Everything else stays constant. So that pretty much sums up the tax rate piece. Is there any questions I can answer on the tax rate or the budget?
Doesn't look like it.
Good job.
Not seeing any questions, Louis.
Okay. So if there's not any questions at this time, then I would be looking for a motion to approve the budget.
So even with the VOTAC number not being in there, if we approve it at 19,096,030, whatever that comes back for the VOTAC, you're just going to adjust, you said, from a different line, so that number remains constant.
Correct.
Okay. So a motion would be in order.
We know the,
That won't take effect till next year because it's in July.
okay.
Yeah.
Was there a question I didn't hear?
No, we're,
No.
Okay.
A motion to approve the budget at 19,096,030 would be in order.
I'll make that motion, Lisa.
Okay? Motion by Nate, second? Second by Seth. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Louis.
Did you want to do the van part while you're here too, Louis?
I don't have any of that documentation with me.
Okay, so we can put that off?
Next month.
Can I make a motion to table it if
Okay.
it's on the agenda?
So we'll, actually, can we table it to, March? Because are we meeting other than our annual meeting? We haven't really decided.
We haven't decided as yet.
So I guess this would be a good place to decide if we wanted to meet twice in February or if we're just meeting for the annual meeting. I mean, this we could wait till March, or you'd prefer we spoke to it in February?
It doesn't matter. I think we're covered at this point, so
Okay.
I'll make a motion to table till February.
but we could just table it for now, and I'll provide the information again. It was in the packet, but we can
Okay.
provide it again next month, and if we don't meet next month, then it'll just move forward to March.
Okay. All right, so we'll table it till February and we'll see what we're doing with meetings. All right, Louis, thank you. Enjoy whatever you're doing. Parasailing,
Thank you.
margaritas on the beach.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, good night.
Bye.
We feel bad for you.
All right. Moving on to new business, school choice. So if you want to just give a little synopsis
Yeah.
for people that are new members, what
Right,
school
so
choice?
Each year, by, end of January, we really have to set a number for the amount of school choice students in and school choice students out for Quarry Valley high schools, particularly 9 through 12. Last year, we voted, or was approved, to have the number across the 3 buildings was 10 students in and then 10 students out. My recommendation would be that we continue with that number for this year, for the upcoming year.
Any questions or comments from the board? Building administrators?
Is it an issue if we make it more, or?
I don't think we can make it more.
It's a percentage, I think 10 is the maximum.
That's right, that's right, okay.
I think 10 is the max we
Yeah.
can do.
Yeah. I'll make a motion.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Mike,
Make a motion.
okay.
I'll make a motion to keep it at 10 for in and for out.
Okay, motion by Kristen Ross, second.
I'll second it.
Second by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Town meeting, town warning. Town meeting, are we talking about our meeting, annual meeting?
I think it was just a touch base if we needed to, about the informational meeting on the 22nd.
Okay. I think if we just, well, we're waiting to see what? One, if they're going to allow it to be hybrid, right?
Correct, yeah.
And I would, I would think we would just keep it like we have in the past, with Louis kind of putting his, you know, the same slides together about the budget, about the CLA, that, you know, what we've done every year. I mean, those that have been on the board, Kristen, Seth, Nate, I mean, do you anticipate anything different? I mean, we've also in the past had, each building administrator provide a slide that's kind of like highlights from their school from the year. So I would, I'd like to see that on there also. That's nice to see.
So we're going to record a presentation for PEG TV, and so we will
Okay,
we'll play that presentation like we did last year
sure.
for the public, and then we'll also be available for any questions that people may have.
Okay. Is everybody good with that? Okay.
Where are we gonna do that?
Actually, this year would be Proctor High School.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I know that they had it, there was a bill they were pushing. I don't know where they are.
The legislature, well, the early indications are they're taking a look at for informational meetings as to whether or not we can offer a full remote like we did last year. But then we'd have to look at voting by Australian ballots, like exactly what we did last year, or if we can offer the hybrid. The hybrid, the situation would be about the voting. We would have to still in a hybrid vote by Australian ballot because there'd be no way that someone could vote, obviously, virtually in
Right.
person. So,
And the only thing we
So you'd have to have
vote
a-
when we're there is moderator.
right,
Well, the moderators, well, because I'm the moderator, because I was elected as moderator.
right.
Yeah, but
So
we-
you would serve until, if we would vote by Australian ballot, till
The following year.
Right. I'm up till the vote.
Yeah.
And then it's revoted, it'll come back up on the ballot.
We usually vote that from the floor.
No, I know that's the way it used to be. but
last
it
year
came
we
up-
didn't, we had to vote by Australian
Yeah,
ballot.
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So-
last year.
So if we voted by Australian ballot, Mike would then be the moderator for
Right.
this meeting till,
So do we need to have the clerks there from each town? Because that,
If we vote, if we,
yeah, just, that's all, just,
yeah, if we do it just in person, like a regular meeting, then, they have to be there, because they have, but if it's hybrid, then they wouldn't
no.
have to be there, because we're not going to vote, and if it's virtual,
so if it's virtual, would it make more sense to do it from here? Because we have all the equipment and access here, rather than trying to make it work there?
if it's just strictly virtual, I think it would.
Yes.
Even if it's hybrid, we could almost do it from here, couldn't we? I mean, how many people do we think are actually going to?
Well, we have capacity for usually, in my experience, for the number of people that show up, so
yeah, I'm fine either way.
Okay.
I think if we wanted
So
to
we'll
have
have
it
to
Proctor,
warn
we
it.
could make it work, but
you'll
Yeah.
have to warn it, that's all. so
Yeah, and we have
people know
plenty
where
of time to get our that together, so hopefully they're gonna have a decision before people have to do warnings.
Just let me know.
So is there any, Kristen Ross?
Yeah, I just didn't quite hear, did you say, Chris, the informational meeting would be the 22nd, whatever format it's in?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, that is, it's Tuesday,
Yes.
February.
Okay,
yeah.
at 7
At-
PM or what time?
At 7 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, got it, thanks.
So if that meeting's strictly virtual, then we would kind of be in the same format like we are right now. And even if it's hybrid, would you all be opposed if we did it just from here, since the equipment's here, rather than having to take it to a school, set up chairs, all that kind of stuff? I mean, I think even if it's hybrid, most people would join virtually. And the handful that are going or would join, I mean, we do have space here for people.
That sounds good. I mean, unless there's something that says we can't do it, it has to be done in one of the schools, but if that's not like legislated and.
No, I mean, we've just always rotated as just a
Yeah.
courtesy more
Yeah.
for communities, but, so.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Okay, so we'll continue to monitor that, and then once we have that, we'll send a draft out to everyone, so everyone can proofread it.
Yes.
And then the books will be,
We need
together.
signatures.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to figure that
And
out.
putting our books together and everything. And then, if we can have from high school principals, we talked about this last year, about including this in our books, including in your, school's story are your high school graduates and where they've gone and what they're doing. I mean, that's really our product that we're producing, so we need to show that, to those that are investing in us or in our schools. And we used to do that, and then it there was a law, and I know that people enjoy seeing that across all 3 schools when they're reading about what's going on, what's happened in the schools over the year. They like to see, that list of graduates also. So if you could do that, that would be great. Jen?
So we submitted those with just the list of the names. Do you want to add where they've gone now? I just want to make sure I'm...
Yeah, if they've gone to Castleton and things like that, I think it's nice to show that.
Or if they moved into a career
Yeah.
workforce where they're working, things like
Yeah.
that. As far as we know.
All right, thank you. All right, and any other questions, on that? Okay, coaching model presentation.
We're going to table that till March, if that's okay.
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 So we'll table that till March. All right, that gets us down to approval of minutes. A motion would be in order to approve the December 2021 minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mike, second.
Second.
Second by Sarah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Approval of warrants. You receive your warrants through your GRCSU email. Questions should be directed to Lewis. A motion would be in order for the approval of warrants.
Kristen Ross, I'll move the approval of the warrants.
Second.
I'll second the warrants.
Second by Nate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Superintendent's report.
Thanks. I know it's a bit of an oral report. Technically, we've had maybe 4.5 days since our last meeting outside of break. So there has been one shift, which probably all aware of, that occurred at the end of our winter break, which really impacted our schools in terms of close contact, what the definition of a close contact, and particularly in terms of how they define fully vaccinated. And I think that's, I want to thank our building administrators and our school nurses for the work in terms of kind of clarifying that with their communities, with their staff members, parents, because it was confusing. But I think because it did, for some of our families and some of our students who, like on the Friday before break, were by definition fully vaccinated, then to find out come Monday they were no longer fully vaccinated.
Right.
And that was particularly around the booster shots and it had the greatest impact really on some of our staff members as well as our older students. I think our younger students, a lot of them who did receive the vaccine became fully vaccinated back in December, so therefore they were not impacted by this shift or change in definition, so they still are okay. We have done a nice job of communicating that with all of our families, just in terms of we do have a booster vaccination clinic at Pulteney Elementary, right, Kristen? Yep. Just to make sure. So
Yes.
Yes.
The 12th, 9
Yes.
to 12.
Yes, thank you. So in that opportunity for families, I know that we've asked our building administrators to send out information to families that if they are looking for a place to get a booster, because it is difficult, in, whether it be at CVS or Walgreens or at their local pediatrician, this is an opportunity for them to sign up and register and get vaccinated, as well as their booster. So that did cause a bit of a shift, as well as the quarantine. The shift from a 10-day to a 5 days, then if after 5 days there are no symptoms, then they can return with mask, which is, we still have a mask policy, so it does not really impact our staff or our students. We still will be offering test to stay. I know I sat in a call today with Secretary French, and he alluded to all the superintendents to be, just to make sure we tune in on Tuesday, that there might be some shifts in terms of some of the things we're doing. I know that he had hinted at some of these things, but we don't know if it's going to be a gradual shift or a sudden shift. We are kind of in that interesting period where I think we've been saying all along about shifting from a pandemic approach to an endemic approach. So once we have that information, we will meet with the admin team, school nurses, and then we'll communicate that to our communities as soon as possible, just so they're fully aware of what those shifts are and what that might mean for our students or our schools. Okay. And that's really about it right now, just for us. Like I said, I think our building admins, I just want to thank our building admins, our school nurses, our staff for the past 4 days. It's always tough coming back after break. It's even tougher when you have Omicron and other things in our community. So they've done a phenomenal job of responding and making sure that it's been a smooth transition as possible for our students. So I want to thank them publicly.
All right, thank you, Chris.
Are we going to be in the loop on that if those are changes from Secretary French? Just
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a governor's conference, right?
Well,
Usually
but Secretary
have a press
French will
conference.
also have, make an announcement at that time about some of the
Right.
changes, and so,
But I mean, that's his regular press conference.
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
yeah.
yep. And so whatever we have, and we might not get guidance or updates until Thursday or Friday, so typically what happens is they'll make a pronouncement, they'll make a statement, and then they scramble and they're quickly trying to figure out how they're going to roll out to schools. And so we'll hopefully, because I believe that over the past week they've really been working behind the scenes and anticipating with this shift and this change. So therefore, I think that the guidance should be quickly follow the press conference, hopefully.
Okay.
But as soon as we have it, we will let families know.
All right.
Oh, and I have one more thing. I just want to remind that we do have the second meeting for our Portrait of a Graduate on January 18th, and I will be sending out a reminder email to everyone Monday,
What is it, the 18th?
the 18th, yes. All right, so that'll go out to everyone. So, and for anyone who did not participate in the first round, you can reach out to myself or anyone of your building administrators, and we can get you that information. So you can participate in the second meeting. Thanks. And that will be virtual.
Okay. Any questions for Chris? All right, we didn't require principals to provide written reports because, as Chris said, we've only been in school 4.5 days. Is there anything anybody wants to add? Okay. Moving on to personnel contracts. The updated contract, you received the update for the contracts in your email.
Separate one, correct?
Yeah, it came this afternoon. We've got to find it because it's not in our
It's
packets.
not this one at the very end here, because I thought I saw something on here.
I have retirements. I didn't see the contracts.
Here, I have an extra copy. You want to take one?
Okay.
No, you
Thought I
don't
saw
have it.
something.
Can I have, yeah, just so I can read it. Okay, so contract recommendations for professional staff are for all of our administrators. And they are in year 2 of a 2-year contract. And then we have 2 support staff, a building substitute in Pulteney Elementary and a building substitute in West Rutland. Are there any questions about the contract recommendations?
I just want to clarify, the administrative contracts, they're currently in year 1, next year would be year 2.
Right, FY '23 would be
Okay.
year 2, sorry.
So in other words, this is a 2-year contract, is what you're saying?
So they're they're right now, FY '22 is year 1. So right now, as we said, they're in year 1. July 1 begins the second year of their 2-year contract.
To the following July, June. Yep.
So, it'll
In
be,
23, that's when it ends.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll go July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2023.
Next year, we'll be approving a new multi-year contract for them.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. All right, motion would be in order to approve the contracts as presented in the updated format, or the updated handout. Motion by Seth, second.
Kristen Whitman, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. There's 2 retirements in your packet.
Did you get the supports? The 2 support staff?
Yeah, we did them all together.
Okay.
Professional and support.
Okay, gotcha.
So Michael Mitchell's worked here long enough to be retiring,
Well,
or he's
I
resigning?
think it should be a resignation, yes.
Okay. So we have a resignation and a retirement. So Michael Mitchell would be resigning, and Catherine Corbo would be retiring. A motion would be in order to accept the resignation and the retirement.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Nate, second.
I'll second.
Second by Sarah. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. In your packet for information, you have vacancies across the SU. Committee reports, Communication Committee, Kristen Ross.
Okay, we just met right before this meeting, so I don't have minutes typed up from that yet, but from the last meeting, we are, again, continue to keep an eye on websites and populating some of the tabs that are consistent across all of the schools. So if you go to the academics tab, for example, in some cases, in some schools, there's not anything there. So we're looking to try to get information from building administrators and appropriate other staff for, putting in things like student-teacher ratios, programs of study, especially for high school level, information like that. Shannon is putting together, Shannon and Gray have put together another email that will go out soon, hopefully this week, to folks. I know it's not high on the priority list to get our websites up. I know there's a lot of other stuff going on day to day that building administrators have to worry about, but we'll keep kind of pushing to get some of this information up there, because we're hoping community tabs and academics tabs can be looked at by hopefully prospective families looking to choose schools. And if we don't have anything in our academics tabs, it doesn't look that great. So also, sometimes admissions folks from colleges or other kinds of institutions will look at that information, and so we need to have something up there, especially again at the high school level. So we're working on keeping that information flowing through Shannon as much as we can, or front office staff who are able to put that in there, but Shannon's the main contact for that. The drive frame update, which is sort of how the Google folders all fit together and appear when you're looking for, say, like board minute information or agenda items or superintendent's reports or principal reports. That kind of information is still being worked out. Greg and Milt have been working on improving how that drive frame looks, and hopefully it'll be more clear. So they are working on getting that organized properly and then tested so that it works how they think it works. And then also working on getting feedback, probably meeting down the road. Again, lots going on before March, so probably not till the spring to really sit down with building administrators and have them take a close sort of one-on-one look at how they want that information, particular to their building, organized on the school websites. So that's in the works and slowly being worked on too. The other thing, if I can, I was going to put up the survey. I'm going to share my screen. A second here. Shannon put together this really nice little sort of couple-page summary of the survey information. So hopefully you can see that. I'm trying to show the whole thing on one page. But I will zoom in a little bit here so you can see some of the graphics. So this, I don't think was included in the packet. Maybe we can send it out to folks. But it just shows some of the results of the survey. We had a conversation about the results, and hopefully this information will flow into a communications plan. Some of this will feed back into that. You know, I don't want to spend too much time going through a lot of detail, but most of our communities, and again, I believe that this survey was filled out the highest percentage of people were from the Poultney area, that actually, you know, we got return results from. But, so from those results, 66% of the community receives their information from the automated calling system and from teachers, which is, you know, more than half, so that's good. And, you know, those are these two highest bars right here. And then the next highest bar is the weekly newsletter. So that's what, you know, I think what we would like is to have information coming, you know, most people are interested in information about their child's, you know, progress or what they're doing in the classroom. So that was the first question, is how do you get your information? And then the second question here is how do you prefer to get your information? And so this big bar here is almost, you know, 92%, almost 100%. So they prefer getting an email directly from the school/teacher. So word of mouth was not a popular way to get information. Social media was kind of surprisingly low here. And the newsletter was kind of surprisingly low to me. So those two bars at the bottom here. So most people said, most of the respondents said they prefer direct either website here or newsletter or direct, you know, most popular is from the teacher. So that's not surprising. And then this question, you know, if we did this over or expanded this across the SU or something, we'd probably change this question, but this was, what type of school or district information are you most interested in? And there was a lot of choices, so it kind of split up the data quite a bit, but not surprisingly, most people are interested in calendar of events and curriculum and programs, so that's why populating those academic tabs are important on the website. And then update on child's progress and extracurricular activities were both, you know, over 60%, so almost, this was 75%. So those were the kind of the top four that people are interested in. Reminder of events is also high here, but I kind of put that in the same category as calendar of events. So as long as our website, especially, and social media sites and emails can be hitting those things, hopefully we'll be keeping most people happy. And then this one is, how often do you get information? And again, weekly is the largest bar here. About 59% say that they got weekly communication, so that's pretty good. Then these pie charts here are about effectiveness of our communication. So the teal color here is, rounding up is about 39%. We are very effective at getting out information. If you combine that with the somewhat effective at 37%, we're either very or somewhat effective 2/3 of the time of getting information out. So there's room for improvement there, I think, but I don't know, for me, I think that was somewhat, the very effective and somewhat effective scores were higher than I thought they might be, so that's good news. This one is, how do you rate the quantity or quality of the communication? And most people answered above average at 26.5% or average 37.5%. But about a quarter, a little under a quarter here said it was unacceptable. So, 75%, that's pretty good of quality. But again, there's definitely room for improvement. So figuring out how we can improve that would be, I think, helpful in a communication plan that we're working on. So that's just that handout. And then the other update I'll make is just that today we met and really workshopped the communication plan a little bit in the time that we had. And so that's really rough draft. We found a model policy from a district that had a lot of different, much larger districts. So we're trying to make the model sort of, put our pieces into that model and get rid of the stuff that doesn't apply to us and add in the stuff that does apply. And so we've been talking about, how to edit that, and Shannon and Greg and Chris have all been working on that. I just added in sort of a preliminary sort of table of contents, sort of sections for the communication plan. So that's in draft form still, and probably won't be sort of ready to share with the wider group for a couple months, just in terms of, we have February stuff and March stuff to get through. So maybe by the April meeting, we'll be able to work on that. So I think those are the main things I wanted to highlight. Does anybody have questions? The other thing, one last thing quickly is we are potentially looking into different kinds of apps that maybe would be helpful for coaching staff or extracurricular staff that we hire that are working with our younger students and how to communicate with families better. That's a challenge when you don't have, you have athletics, say like a 3rd or 4th grade or 5th, 6th grade team of some sort, or a group, or some kind of other extracurricular group that's through our, the staffing is hired through us, but they're not a teacher or a principal. And so how do they, if they don't have a GRCSU email account, how can they communicate securely and properly and appropriately with parents? I have a 3rd grader who's playing basketball, and I don't have a way to contact her coach right now. So those are the kinds of things, especially with COVID and things being canceled, or a kid being ill or something, if they can't make a game, besides Facebook, then everybody sees that. Is there a more secure way? So we're gonna maybe look into that as well. So if anybody has questions, Sarah.
Is there not a way to give outside folks guest accounts in the GRCU system?
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, Greg could speak to that more. And so we're looking at different kinds of ways of doing that, because, if it's a 3rd grade group, say, or a 5th grade group, sometimes they're only active for like a month. So I don't know how much that would, or 2 months or something. So we'll have to see what the most productive and efficient, feasible way is for that. But yeah, I think that's one of the things we're looking at.
Yeah, the management of that, definitely. And then balanced against, I'm thinking about parents, if there's a way, on the side, having to remember different communication strands or strategies or platforms for, school versus, outside extracurriculars and things like that. That can also be a challenging balance too. So, streamlining communication feels like a potential priority from the family side.
Seth?
Yeah, definitely. Seth, did you have a
Yeah,
question?
just a quick, I appreciate that you were talking about looking for ways that commented on Facebook. I think that that's something that we should keep in mind as much as possible, that not have it be the only method, or other social media aspects of the only method of communication. I think the schools have done a pretty good job with that in general, but I have run into it in the past with sports teams in the past, and as a person who does not have Facebook, and it gets in the way, and you kind of get kept out of the loop. So I think we just want to keep that as a general thought process, that I think it's totally fine to use those things as supplementary measures and to spread the word. And I realize that I am very much in the minority as someone who does not have that platform or some of these platforms, but there are plenty of us out there. And yeah, sometimes it definitely can be kind of an impediment when that's the only method. So glad to hear you're thinking about it. Just keep it in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know Joe Harrington also commented that, for West Rutland, everything goes through him for even the younger ages, for specifically athletics he was talking about, but for other types of groups that we might have too, even like parent, organizers of particular things that aren't athletics necessarily. So we have to think of a way that it can all, because not every parent knows exactly or is always as short and sweet about their communication and just informational, not commentary kind of stuff. It's just like, here's when practices, it was canceled, here's your next game, that kind of thing, and to make sure that we can sort of monitor it, and that we're trying to avoid people having to use their own personal emails or their own personal texting groups or whatever, because then that can result in some uncomfortable situations. So anyway, we're looking into that. If anybody has thoughts, Joe Harrington's going to look into sort of BPA approved, at least athletic apps, and then if others have ideas or ones that they've used for their kids, you can let Joe know or me know, and we'll check them out. So.
Kristen, can I just add, I think one of the concerns we also talked about was that the communication then would be through a vehicle which parents would see. So I know that in some of our older kids, sometimes the only people that see the text messages are the students alone. I think that's just something we have to be aware of and make sure that the communication should be with families and not with students. And so like a program like TeamSnap or something along those lines, where it really is the parents have that. And so therefore, if there is a change or a cancellation that at 9 o'clock at night for practice the next day, it's going to the parents receiving it. It's not a text message going to a junior, student, at nighttime. It's just, it's not always the most appropriate. So we're just looking at ways to make it more professional communication and more streamlined a little bit more. So thanks.
All right, thank you. With respect to putting stuff up on websites, I think if you're speaking with Shannon, the school choice right now, since we've approved that, making sure that's on front pages, particularly for high schools, with dates and all those kinds of things every year. Without fail, we have someone who comes and didn't know this or didn't know the date or all of those kinds of things. So that would be great to have right when you open a page, I think, because it's a short window, and those that are interested, that's where they should be going to finding that information. So thank you very much for your work. You guys are really doing a lot, and it's progressing along nicely. I know sometimes in your reports you sound like it's kind of not going, but you are. Your reports are showing great progress, so we appreciate the work. All right, moving on to policies. We have second read for two policies, F6, transportation, and F12, weapons and firearms. Any questions, comments about those two particular policies? Those were policies that went back to the policy committee. There were some concerns. If you recall that in weapons, it didn't delineate other things. I think with suspension and like that with respect to other types of weapons, so that's kind of been spelled out more. And the transportation was just kind of cleaning it up a little bit and giving the authority to the superintendent. If there aren't any questions, a motion would be in order to approve F6 transportation and F12 weapons and firearms.
So moved.
Motion by Seth, second.
Second.
Second by Sarah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. For the first read, we have C2, use of copyrighted work. G2. H1, parental involvement, and D4, volunteers and work study students. Any comments to go back to the policy committee for those three, or any of those three policies?
Yeah, on parental involvement, just in the paragraph of implementation, we can just move down line number 1, come right after that colon, whether that should just move down so it's sort of a numbered list.
Oh, just a formatting.
Exactly, hit the return key.
Yep, okay, I see what you're saying. Yep,
That's all that I noticed.
okay. Okay, if you have, if you read through, Sarah?
Sorry, also for parental involvement and, if this is a question, so let me know if this is maybe not the place to spell this out. But I really appreciate the research has shown parental involvement is a key factor in academic success. And I'm wondering, the way that the implementation pieces are worded, encourage, provide opportunities, informed, the parents who are able to take advantage of opportunities provided tend to be the parents in homes where they're already full of opportunities. So I'm wondering if and so maybe this is really more about the implementation of the programs, and so it doesn't need to be written into the policy. That's why this is a question, right? But I'm wondering if there's a, if it makes sense in the policy to state a little more, I'm thinking out loud, but to figure out ways or some language that indicates that we're going to be creative about thinking about ways to involve parents that are beyond, we're putting out an opportunity and we hope you take advantage of it, but they're just, in order for parents, all parents to be able to participate in this process, I think there has to be some creative outside of the box thinking. So again, just kind of thinking out loud there, and maybe this is more for the implementation piece, but I just wanted to sort of raise that.
Yeah, so I think that 2 does cover that, and we don't want to handcuff ourselves to anything too specific in the implementation, so it allows you, I think the way I read it, to think outside the box. Whoever's offering those opportunities or activities and those kinds of things. So, I don't know. If there's some more specific language, we can, I don't know. I guess the deal with policies like this, it's tough, because with weapons and firearms, right, you want to be really specific about what things are, but like a policy like this, you want it to be a little more open-ended about how you're going to invite and put people in. So, just add all instead of just say parents. I guess.
I mean, it's almost like setting a goal in some ways, right? Like the goal is to include all parents, and then there's lots of different ways that you can try to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we could
I was just
say,
thinking all, because we're always saying all students, you know, and that is supposed to be the whole realm of the students, so maybe all parents, just a simple word to add.
But isn't the philosophy in the background spell that out?
yeah.
Yeah, in some ways, I guess I was thinking of an acknowledgement, just an acknowledgement of the idea that opportunities are not always spread equitably, like are not always equitably accessible by all parents. And so, you know, I do, you're right. And so maybe there isn't anything to change here, but and I think that the background does, you know, parent involvement is a key factor, but I think the research also shows that the parents who take advantage of opportunities that are offered, again, are the parents who are able to take advantage of opportunities offered. And so it's just as we're thinking about, you know, sort of equity throughout, you know, throughout the sort of, you know, systems that we're operating with. I was just kind of thinking out loud around that. But I mean, Lisa, I also take your point that they need, you know, that the wording needs to be broad enough to allow for, you know, the different, you know, types of or the different possibilities for implementing these policies. But just as I read that, I was kind of, when I read that the first time, I was sort of nodding along with, yes, this is great, but I'm wondering if there's a way that we can acknowledge that, you know, we know that it's not always easy to take advantage of the opportunities offered, so we're going to be thinking kind of creatively about how that happens. And so again, maybe the policy isn't the place for that to happen, but maybe that's some language that we can use as the implementation of the policy is being planned out.
Okay. Nate?
I was wondering if we go back to transportation and we're done talking about this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess the only other thing I could see like adding under any of those, it would be something like ongoing or continual conversations or something like that. So it would be, give the impression that it wasn't just a once and done kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, we could send it back to the policy committee with that kind of suggestion and see what they come back with, okay?
Yeah, I mean, if you,
I mean, it's a first
it may be fine as it is, and I'm just, you know, I'm finding a one-off.
No, but that's why they send it to us for the first read, so we can send it back and maybe other, you know, every board is getting it, so maybe other boards came back with different things, so that can be our piece. Okay,
Sorry, Lisa, can I just double down on Sarah, just because I'm on the policy committee, so I can remember this for next meeting. So would it be something like, not in these words, but the impetus is on us as the district to make sure we think creatively about how to have a bigger tent in terms of getting parent involvement, right?
And that's exactly right, and I had been thinking that earlier, and it's been a long day, but I think that's right. I think when I read parents should, it feels very much on the parents, but I really think it's on us, right, to provide those opportunities. So that's exactly the right thing, Kristen.
Okay, I would be hesitant to make it too, onus on the district, because once someone feels like we haven't offered them something, then they're going to come back. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a fine line. So, you know, something like maybe like opportunities exist for all parents to something. Yeah, it's going to be in the wording of it, where the onus is, on us, or, you know, maybe the partnership or something like that between school and parent. So, all right.
And some of that, like you said, both of you said, is in the procedure.
Yeah.
You know, the procedural piece of this, which doesn't necessarily go.
Right.
We want the policy to be general enough. We don't want to specify exactly which way, because it's going to be different depending on what the avenue is and what the family group is, et cetera. So, but I just want to make sure I got the essence of what Sarah was saying. Okay. Thanks.
All right. So, Nate, transportation?
Yeah, I just had a question in general. What's the backup plan for substitute bus drivers, if drivers call out? Because I know here at Polton, we got kids going to school an hour late if somebody calls in sick. So yeah, I'm just curious to know what the plan is.
Nate, that is a backup plan across the state. I think all SUs are...
It's happened like 3 or 4 times probably the past few months.
It's up to the contractor, isn't it?
Yeah, Nate, I think that's a concern across the state with transportation, that there just aren't a lot of drivers out there, and that as we have a driver who's out with, say, COVID, or calls out sick or quits, that unfortunately, as we try to find a way to transport our students, we're looking at creative ways. And I know we work closely with Don at Betcha, and sometimes we have to double up routes and things along those lines. We understand it's a huge inconvenience for families, but we're doing our best to try to transport. But as of right now, we're looking for creative solutions for this. I know I've looked into getting going back and trying to get my license to drive the bus, help out. I know that other admins have as well. I'm not saying I'm being serious, because we've taken a look at this, but there's a shortage in drivers, and I think as this happens, and I think I'm not going to fault Don. I think Don is over at Betch is doing the best he can. But I do understand, Nate, it is an inconvenience as kids are 45 minutes to an hour late for school in some situations, or sometimes waiting around for another 45 minutes to go home. So we are looking for better solutions, better ways of doing this, but we also are hoping that parents can assist us too. If they can pick kids up, they can pick kids up. There are some kids you're waiting 45 minutes and they live 2 blocks away from the house too. So it's just, I think just, we're trying our best. So Nate, if you have any solutions, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that, as well as anybody else. I think just working through that. So it is a problem that we're facing we're on a daily basis, and but it's not, and I'm not saying it's not just us to get out of it, but it's just kind of a reality of the workforce here in Vermont right now that we're struggling. So.
All right, thanks, Chris.
No problem.
All right, moving on to future meeting dates. So the question is, the annual meeting will of course be, we discussed, on Tuesday, February 22nd at 7 o'clock. Does the board want to have a regular meeting in February, or do you want to just have the annual meeting and then have the reorganization meeting in March? Do you want to have a meeting before the annual meeting?
Administratively, what works best?
Well, what's your thought, Chris? I mean, if we didn't meet in February and only had the annual meeting, I mean, do we anticipate...
Well, could we meet at 6 prior to
the annual meeting?
Informational meeting?
Yeah, we could do that. Would that be okay with people? Have our regular, and just have an abbreviated agenda of if we needed to approve contracts or something like that. Does that work for everybody? Okay, so the 22nd at 6 o'clock, we'll do our regular Quarry Valley meeting, and I think we can go without principal reports and things like that. It'll just be, what's necessary if we have contracts or things like that. All right? Okay, that sounds great. If you have future agenda items you'd like to have, let's say on the March agenda, you can send them to Christine or to Chris. Remember that the March agenda is reorganization, and then we're going to have the coaches presentation, so those are going to take up a good portion of the meeting. Is there anything else anybody has to come before the board? If not, we have a request for executive session for personnel. So it is 7:08. If we could say we will reconvene in executive session at 7:15. So it gives everybody a chance here to get picked up. And we'll just need the board. We don't need building administrators. Kristen Ross.
Is that the same link here, or are you going to give us a new link for exec?
I'll send a new link during the break, okay?
Perfect, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so a motion would be in order to go into executive session at 7:15 for personnel.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Tom, second by Mike. All those in favor? Any opposed? So, all right, we will see you back here at 7:15, and we just need the board, we don't need building administrators. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.